I think, not only with the SEC, but any agency under the jurisdiction of Dodd-Frank, that we're having these deadlines just lapse. And I guess my question is to what extent has this impacted not only capital markets, but also just some sense of certainty in business planning for the business environment out there when the Jobs Act, under the Regulation D of general solicitation restrictions being removed, not being done? Mr. Colson?
So I was speaking to a CEO who's got a publicly traded company. They're not SEC reporting, but they have $100 million in revenues, and they own restaurants. And he was reaching out to me saying, you know, I've been raising capital privately from friends and family. We've been growing the business, but we've got an opportunity to expand. When is the Jobs Act going to take place? When is Reg A Plus going to come? Because I want to use that. And I keep hearing about it. And, you know, that's the story I keep hearing is this is going to change capital raising for small companies.
So they're sitting on the sidelines. In other words, investment capital is waiting.
They're constrained.
And let me ask you this then. Do you feel that there is sufficient capacity of investment capital out there to meet what hopefully is a pent-up demand for those who are entrepreneurs or businesses that want to put it to use?
Well, it's gonna change and open up capital raising because now the rules of privacy for private capital raises, you can only talk to pre-existing relationships. You can't have any publicity around it. So much capital
is just sitting out there.
Sitting there. And, you know, there will be some dumb ideas financed because of the transparency.
But isn't that the market? Isn't that what the market does?
And it will be so much better if we, not only investors, but the press and the public, see what's going on in capital markets. We stop having this one tier of markets where things take place publicly, and then you have everything else taking place in private. I mean, unless you're Dr. Evil, you'd really like to be able to finance
that leads me to my next
publicly.
question. And this is what I want to do. I'm going to poll each one of you on this because I've only got 2 minutes here. And Mr. Berman from California referred to this. Now, putting it down on my level, when I go back home and I see mom and pop investor and I see my developers that are looking for capital, investment capital, in order to expand their business or to start their development, and they go to the banks and they can't get because of their restrictions, there's nothing in the equity markets, so they go to a credit union. What is your opinion? And if I would just poll you, I mean, we've got this issue of whether we should raise the commercial lending capacity for credit unions. How do I tell my people back home that just wait, the Jobs Act will pass, we'll have more investment capital out there for you, you don't need to go to a credit union, but in the meantime, they're waiting. And so what's your opinion on expanding the commercial credit limit for credit unions?
I mean, it's another great access to capital, but debt is different than equity. I mean, equity is, you know, and they should all be there, and companies should decide. You know, equity has a lot of advantages because it's perpetual. You don't go bankrupt issuing equity. You have, you know, so companies.
But entrepreneurs have to act. I mean, they don't have the luxury of waiting for equity financing, and they need the liquidity, so they'll go to debt financing.
And the Jobs Act was filled with great ideas for all levels of creating equity, but it just hasn't happened. Right. I mean, we're all waiting.
Mr. Ferraro, anything to add?
Well, Congressman, I look at that issue in the context of my own company because business development companies are in the business of providing that debt. We do both debt and equity, but really being a lender is the bread and butter. And we're here today in promoting legislation that is all about increasing opportunity, increasing the category of investments in financial services companies that we can freely invest in. Some of the legislation concerns leverage limits, a lot of registration parity and reform. So getting to your question, essentially, those kinds of reforms that we're in favor of, that's the other avenue for people in your constituency. I'd hope you tell them to visit a BDC as readily as the credit.
Message delivered. I believe my time has expired, so I'll yield back.
Chairman goes back. Mr. Stivers is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My first